Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to just talk about the shining ability. So saying the shining ability is honestly kind of a misnomer because the shining is a secondary umbrella term for psychic abilities in the Stephen King multiverse. Another term that's often used for psychic abilities is the touch. But the touch often refers to abilities that are much subtler and often have a lot more to do with Ka and Katet, meaning they're destiny based abilities to basically sense the flow and the ways destiny kind of moves and stuff. So it's kind of more in realm with that, but a lot of those abilities do span down into the shining realm and become greater than just those subtle abilities in rare cases, but it's not often the case. So mostly because of the movie, most people just kind of have this nebulous idea of what it is. They just know it's some form of telepathy or whatever, and it kind of is to a degree because the way the power works is the term shine is probably a great term for it in general, apart from just the nature of Stephen King's inspiration for it. But I think it's a great title anyway because the strength comparisons in the shining ability works very comparatively to the idea of shine, either dimly shining or brightly shining. So pretty much anyone with the shining ability has some sort of access to a full suite of abilities, but it depends on how brightly they shine on how many abilities they can directly access. So in the Shining book and in the movie, Danny is showed to have only a few of the powers. He is probably the strongest shiner that we have seen up to that point. Dick was a little weaker than him, but he shows the ability of thought projection, but he has a very limited range, and he can also probe other people to tell whether or not they shine, and he has precognitive visions. So he has a few abilities, and he probably also sees ghosts quite regularly. So he has a few of the main abilities, but he's not nearly as powerful with those abilities as Danny is. Like psychic communication, like thought projection, Danny is strong enough to throw his thoughts from Colorado all the way to Florida. That is a major distance. And when he does that, he even still is able to hurt Dick. When he throws a thought that far, it still lands with such force that it hurts Dick. So that is a level of power that is pretty impressive. And that's mainly his thought projection ability. His precognitive abilities are weaker. That is because he's young and he can't really perceive a lot of it. So a lot of it manifests through Tony. So even when Tony tries to show him different things, he doesn't really understand it, he can't see it, or it comes to him in these kind of weird flashes and things. That's partially because he's too young to understand and interpret it properly, but it's also because that's not one of the areas where he's very bright. His precognitive abilities are like flashes. They're not very detailed yet. Later on, it's kind of assumed that they're stronger, but he does it with alcohol and stuff. So in the book, he gets a singular vision early on that shows him everything that's going to happen at the Overlook. And he gets the vision of like the hedge animals, the fire hose, his dad beating the mallet against the wall, his mom bleeding. He gets all of it. He gets red rum. He gets all of those details in one flash, but it's all one compressed flash. There's no way to go through it slower. There's no way to go event by event. There's no way to go like a particular date or anything like that. He's not very bright in it, but he's brighter than say Dick is, who sometimes like he gets more an emotional flash than he will a true event flash. Like when his brother died, he woke up with the knowledge of it, not necessarily seeing it directly. So he is pretty solid in that ability, but he's not as bright in it as Danny is. Danny is also shown in the book to have at least a limited form of remote viewing. He seems to always know where his dad is or what he's doing. He seems to be able to tap into it. It's hard to tell whether or not that's just him keeping tabs on him because he's reading his mind. He has telepathy. So like he can reach out and search for his mind and touch his mind so he kind of knows he's far away and stuff like that. But it could be remote viewing, but I think it's probably more telepathy. So if he does have remote viewing, he's very dim in that ability, at least at the young age he was in The Shining, because in the sequel, Doctor Sleep, we also see a lot more examples of the various abilities characters can have thanks to Abra Stone, who is much stronger than Danny was at that age. So the list of abilities that Abra is shown to have is a lot. So she has telekinesis, she has psychic projection, which is mental projection. She can basically create an illusion of herself in someone's mind, and they will think that she's physically in front of them. So she can do that. She can astral project, which is basically the same thing, except you're unseen. And she has like mental reflection, which is basically a combination of telepathy and astral projection, where you can like basically pinpoint a person's mind and use your astral self to flip. So if that person also has the shining ability, then y'all can switch spots and basically be inside each other's bodies. But if the other person doesn't have the ability, then you're basically a remote passenger seeing through their eyes and they have no idea. So it's that kind of thing that we see happen a few times in the movie. Apart from precognition, Abra shows a lot of recognition. She sees the past. So she sees... it's actually arguable whether or not this is recognition or just psychometry, because one of the other abilities she very much uses a lot is psychometry. The ability to hold an object and learn information about where it's been or where it's going. So she does that with the baseball boy. She holds the baseball glove and she's able to know where he is, where they were, and basically track them that way. But she also, in the movie at least, she does it in such a way that kind of feels a little bit like recognition, because she goes back to before the events that took the glove to its location, which, I mean, it's a nebulous power, so who knows how we can say it actually works, but yeah. So it's definitely one of those. And Abra also shows a lot of ability with remote viewing and remote writing. So like when she is in the middle of the vision, seeing what happened to the baseball boy, she's able to write down information that helps them locate that location, help locate what happened basically. She's able to automatically write down information that helps them find that location. And she does it without pretty much realizing what she's doing, because she's still within the trance looking through the vision. So those are just some of the abilities that Shiners definitely have. Apart from those abilities, some of the other characters that show up in Doctor Sleep, the other members of the True Knot, they all have various abilities that kind of fall under the same umbrella. The logic is basically the same as well, at least in the book. They all seem to have like multiple mental abilities, but they all have a particular one that they're the best at. Like some of them are watchers. They can do the mental projection thing and see through other people's eyes a lot better. Like Rose the Hat, she has a full suite of abilities, much like Abra, but not nearly as strong. Like Snakebite Andy, she has the ability to mentally push. She can push her own thoughts into someone else's head and make them kind of do what she wants them to do. Danny has the ability to do that to a degree, but not nearly as strong. And Abra is shown to kind of have that ability, but it's one that she probably won't ever actually use, because being a good person and feeling like that's kind of a bad ability or whatever. So it's stuff like that. There's a lot of other abilities that all run under that umbrella, but the difference is how bright a shiner can shine. So that basically, so if you think about it like a dark room full of different abilities, how bright your light is will illuminate those different abilities and how you can use them, essentially. So it's one of the coolest things that King's created. And a lot of it is based on pure interpretation, because there is no real direct spelling out all of this stuff, because the way King writes, he's much more of a discovery writer. So he just kind of writes a lot of this stuff out. So the conversation often comes up, is Carrie a shiner? Does she technically have the shine? I mean, she's technically telekinetic and pyrokinetic. So maybe, but the issue is that she doesn't seem to show any like affinity for any other abilities, given how strong her telekinesis and her pyrokinesis actually is. She should at least have some vague ability to do other stuff if it is the shining proper. And similar with the movie and the book Firestarter, Charlie is a pure pyrokinetic, but doesn't seem to have much more. Like, she has a little bit more. I would actually classify her more as a shiner, or artificial shiner, I guess, based on her scenario. Because in the books, she has telekinesis and pyrokinesis and some telepathy. In the movies, it's just fire. And her dad is like Snakebite Andy. He's a pusher. He can push thoughts in other people's heads. And his name is also Andy. That's kind of funny. I wonder if King was ripping himself off. But yeah, so the term shiny is a very much a cool umbrella term that's used to basically encompass a lot of these psychic abilities. A lot of characters in King's multiverse have some degree of it, or some degree of the touch, which is, I just consider that the higher cosmology term of it that even creatures that are from worlds completely unlike any of the Earth worlds would call it the touch before they would call it the shining. So that's kind of more my headcanon thing, I think. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I've been rambling about superpowers long enough. So let me know in the comments down below. What are some of your favorite display of powers from any of the Stephen King stories? Let me know about that in the comments down below. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And I will talk to y'all next time. Peace.